Hi everyone, Christina here. Welcome to another card video at my YouTube channel and blog. Today I'm going to be using some new products from Waffle Flower. In fact, these stamps and dies actually come in new packaging from Waffle Flower as well. These are their cloud storage pockets, and they're super strong plastic and have a divider down the middle so that you can put your stamp set in the front and the coordinating dies in the back. I think it's kind of a brilliant idea, especially if you like to store your coordinating sets together. And you can purchase those storage pockets separately over at the Waffle Flower website as well. I'll have it linked down below. I'm going to be using these two stamp sets today with their dies, and I'm going to be creating two cards today. I initially had the idea for one card, but then I realized that since I would be die cutting it, that I would have two separate pieces of this very intensely blended background, and I didn't want to waste any of it. So I'm actually going to get two cards out of this one blended piece here. So this very intense blending, it actually works out really well. It's a little time consuming, but if you ever have had trouble getting really nice, really smooth blends with your distress inks with these foam blending tools, this is one way to get a really nice blend and not really have to worry about it too much. So generally in the past, when I've done blending, I try to keep a pretty light but even coverage of ink. But today for this, I am really laying that ink on there. I want it to be super saturated and intense, and I want these colors to overlap a ton so that I can get a really nice even blend. I'm using 4 different colors. These are actually 4 of my favorite colors to blend together. I've got mustard seed, picked raspberry, seedless preserves, and salty ocean. And as I was blending all of these together, I realized that Seedless Preserves really was the strongest color, and it was the one that I had to use to blend out everything. So, like when you're looking at it, you think that the 4 colors would be in kind of 4 even spots on this cardstock. But as I blend and keep blending, that Seedless Preserves kind of comes all the way up and almost goes into that mustard seed. But I did get a really even blend, and I love how it turned out. Kind of looks like a really intense sunset or something like that. So now I've got that ink blending done. I'm setting that cardstock aside so it can dry completely. I'm going to do some heat embossing over the top, so I need to make sure that those distress inks are completely dry. Distress ink does take a little bit longer to dry than some inks, so you do have to let it dry completely. At this time, while I'm waiting for that to dry, I thought I would stamp all of my little images. So this is one of the stamp sets, and I'm using some Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. I'm going to color all of these images with Copic markers, so I had to use a Copic friendly ink, and this Intense Black from Simon is a great ink for that. Here's the other stamp set, and I'm just inking that down. I'm using my MISTI stamp positioning tool so that I can stamp these images multiple times without moving the paper or the stamps, and this allows me to get really solid black lines. And I actually set these aside, let them dry for a couple hours. I didn't really have to let them dry quite that long, but it really did help to let them dry because this intense black ink, especially since I did 2 or 3 coats of the stamping, sometimes it doesn't dry as quickly as, just a regular dye ink. So if you're not careful and if you're not letting it dry completely, you can kind of get that black smudging just a little bit. You can see on those polka dots on her dress that the black ink smudged just the tiniest little bit. That's because I came in and just started coloring right away. So I'm using Copic markers today, and I'm doing a really simple, easy blending. I'm not doing anything too intense. I really just want the colors to stay nice and vibrant so that they play off of those bright colors that I used for my blending. So I'm going to go ahead and finish coloring all of these people, all these kids, and then I'm going to color the flowers and the gardening tools and the mouse from the other set. I'm going to turn on some music for all this coloring, and I will catch you guys on the other side. So all of the coloring is complete. I'm going to take the coordinating dies for each stamp set and line them up on the colored images and run them through my Big Shot die cutting machine. This cuts them out perfectly, and I don't have to worry about fussy cutting around all of these images. While I have my die cutting machine out, I'm going to take the Circle Stackables die set from Lawn Fawn and cut out a circle out of my ink blended background. This is what I meant earlier when I said that I would have two pieces to use from this one blended background. I'm going to have the outside area, and I'm also going to have the circle. So I'm going to take the outer frame, and this is going to create a shaker card. I'm going to stamp a greeting in this bottom corner. So I'm coating that with some anti-static powder that will prevent any embossing powder from sticking to areas where I don't want it. Stamping the Just Waving Hello greeting from the same stamp set, and I'm sprinkling on some alabaster embossing powder from Burtis Monroe. I heat set that with my heat tool till it was smooth and melted, and I'm going to take the little itty bitty star stamp from that stamp set, and I'm going to stamp a bunch of little stars just around the outer circle area. This is just going to bring all of that fun imagery from all of the waving children and the animals. It's going to bring that back out and kind of extend it out to the edge of the card. So I've stamped all those stars, and I'll go ahead and coat that with my alabaster embossing powder once again. Just sprinkle that on and shake off the excess. And I'll use a heat tool to melt all of the embossing powder on these stars until they're smooth and melted. I'm going to do some stamping on the circle piece while I've got it out, and I'm arranging all of my die cuts in sort of the way that I'm envisioning it on the finished card, and I'm doing that now so that I can figure out where I want my greeting stamped. So I'm using the greeting that says Plant Greens, and I'm just going to place it right up there in that kind of top area, and I'm stamping that in Versamark ink as well. I'll coat that with the same embossing powder. Once again, this is alabaster embossing powder from Burtis Monroe. I'll tap that off so I get all the extra powder off. And then before I heat set this, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the little heart that's included in the stamp set. I stamped actually two hearts. There's a larger heart and this kind of medium size. There's one more that's even smaller, but I decided to not use that one. So now I'm back to that frame piece that's going to create a shaker card, and I'm sort of sliding all of these little die cuts inside, and then I'm going to lift off that outer frame without moving any of the children, and I'm going to put some adhesive along the bottom half of this circle die cut. And that's going to give me enough adhesive so that I can place it over the top and get them all placed on there just right. I'm angling it so that the two boys that are on the outer edge, that I can have their arms kind of extending outside of the die cut circle. So I'm going to pull this one on the right around, and then I'm going to kind of twist this other one and angle it just right so that it can come outside of the circle. So in order to make this a shaker, I'm going to use some acetate. This is just some clear window plastic, and I'm adding some Ranger adhesive on this. This adhesive is multimedia matte, and I'm going all the way around that circle and then also over all of the children. I'm not covering every bit of that surface, but I want to make sure that there's enough adhesive that is going to hold everything together. Press that acetate down, and that creates the front window area of my shaker card. So now I'm going to create the shaker barrier, or the area around it. So I'm taking some foam tape and I'm folding it back on itself so that it creates 2 levels deep of this foam tape. And I'm also cutting it into narrow strips, and then I'll take the release paper off of both sides. And this allows that foam to bend and move a little bit. And I did that so that I could wrap it around the circle shape. This is the easiest way to create a shaker area using a circle die cut, because it makes it so that you don't have to cut out a bunch of little pieces of foam tape. So I'll just bring those two ends together, and then I put more of those narrow strips of foam tape around the other area so that when I place it on the card, it will be completely flat. I'm now using 2 different sets of sequins. I've got fairy dust from Little Things, from Lucy's Cards. And then I've got the Like Magic Sequin Mix from Neat and Tangled. And these two together have a lot of sparkle and shine. I thought they'd be really pretty with some black cardstock on the back. So I'm placing a square of black cardstock. This is some black onyx cardstock from Gina K. And I'm just pressing that down and making sure I press around that circle with my fingertips so I get a nice tight seal. Then when I flip it over, you can see I now have a shaker card. So this is super easy to put together, and I've got a lot of sequins in there. I left a nice big opening for the shaker area, so I thought it would be fun to have lots of sequins inside. Both of these cards are going to be on the same type of cardstock for the card base. I'm using some Neenah Solar White 110-pound cardstock, and I've just scored both of those at 5.5 to create top folding cards. Added some adhesive to that black cardstock, and then I'm going to line up this whole card design with my card base, and then I will just press those two together. And that's going to finish the first card. The second card was very easy in comparison to create compared to that first card. And basically what I did was I put that circle on some foam tape, and then I adhered all of my little images using more foam tape so they were kind of popping up off of each other. I then took a white gel pen. This is a number 10 bold Gelly Roll pen, and I added some dashed lines around that circle die cut. This just gives it a little bit of a finished look, and I thought the stitch lines kind of went with like the garden kind of homespun feel. Added some white dots to the center of the yellow flowers, and I also put just a little shine highlight on the little heart flower over on the side. I thought that would be kind of cute. Put those little white dots in the center of that flower. That finishes the cards for today. These are brand new products from Waffle Flower. If you'd like to see even more inspiration from their release, please head over to my blog. This post is actually part of a blog hop, so there's even more inspiration. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in another video very soon.